Hello, Veronica Karaman here, and we are in our fourth video training for the Champion's Way, core foundations for achieving peak performance in sports and life. We've been talking about how peak performance happens from a place of being what? Fully engaged. To be fully engaged is to be physically energized, mentally focused, emotionally connected, and spiritually aligned. And when we find processes in each one of these categories and do them concurrently is when we take a leap in our performance at whatever level of competition or play or sport that you are in. We've gone over the basic paradigm of the Champion's Way, which is a process-oriented approach, inside-out, self-growth process. We've gone over the physical zone, which is, remember what the physical zone is? Swing mechanics, nutrition, fitness, energy management. The mental zone, which is all about champion mindsets, focus, concentration, mental toughness. And today we're going to talk about the emotional zone. Now, I don't know what sport you play. Perhaps it's golf like me. We know golf to be the most frustrating game that ever exists on the planet. I don't know what sport you play, but emotions play such a key role in peak performance. And I think we've all experienced the negative emotions: anger, frustration, defeat, maybe just ambivalence. None of those emotions create peak performance. Most people know what an emotion doesn't do to create performance, but they don't know what emotions to cultivate. So we want to define what are your most empowering emotions to create a peak performance. Excuse me. Now, when you think about an exemplary performance you had, what was your emotional state? Chances are your emotional state was one of calm concentration. You were focused, you were calm, your mind was quiet, time seemed to expand, and you were in a most empowering state. Referring again to Dr. James Lower, who says that peak performance happens from a totally positive place in your head. One negative thought can destroy a peak performance. One negative emotion can destroy a peak performance. You know, there was a study done, I think it was like of 1 million people. It was a big study. And they found out that only 33% of the people studied could actually identify the emotion they were experiencing while they were experiencing it. So champions have emotional mastery. Champions can replace a disempowering emotion with an empowering emotion at will. That's what distinguishes a champion from a non-champion. So we want to be able to cultivate the process when we experience a bad shot to quickly release it and return to that empowering mental, emotional state. And whether you are a high-level competitor or you're at the beginning of your competitive journey, to have this kind of emotional mastery will give you the competitive edge in sports and in life. Now with me is a very special guest. His name is Flame. And just to share a little bit with you, for a good part of my life, I've struggled with depression. Depression has been something that's been kind of a lifelong companion of mine, not wanted. And one Christmas, I decided that I was not going through that holiday from a depressed state. And I happened to pick up Flame as a Christmas present for a family member, and I decided that I would get one for myself because he was just so cute. And everywhere I went, people would stop me at the gas station, at the supermarket, and point to Flame and laugh. One time I was at the red light and Flame was in the passenger seat of the car, and this guy starts honking. I'm like, what is he honking about? And he's pointing to Flame and going, ha, 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 ha. And then I decided to take Flame into the grocery store. And people started coming up to me, and we were producing joy. And I thought, oh my gosh, we have the power to produce our own emotions. And we produce our own emotions based on how we view something. And in sports and competitions, it's really how we determine what success looks like. So if you determine that success looks like shooting 65 and you shoot 70, what kind of emotion are you going to create as a result of that kind of thinking? Probably discouragement, disappointed, at least a negative emotion. But when you can begin to create success from a process-oriented place, as I did one year, when I decided that success for me would be to fully engage my heart in the process of preparing for a championship. And it was very powerful because the day of the championship, I had to withdraw from the tournament after 18 holes. It was 36 holes because I had a kidney stone attack. And all I had was positive emotion. I had no negative emotions. I was stunned. And it was by the way I determined what success was. So the fact that Flame has been used in my life as an emotional trigger, right? He reminds me to stay in joy. Now, there's 4 quadrants to emotions: high positive, low positive, high negative, low negative. And in the Champion's Way, we go into these quadrants deeply, define what they are, and help you set up your high positive state, because it's in that state of high positive, confident, joyful, enthusiastic, and of course this calm concentration state, that you are going to produce your best performance. And anytime you leave that high positive state, you want to return to it as quickly as you can, because you know it's in that state that you are going to do your best work and perform in your best game. So I have made a decision in my life to stay in joy. And after 1 month around that Christmas time of producing joy with Flame everywhere I went, guess what? I had no depression, 0. And I said, if I can stay in this state for a month, I can stay in this state for a year. If I can stay in this state for a year, I might as well just stay here. Now I fall out of it at times, you have some difficult times, but I'm determined to stay in the state of joy, because joy is the highest positive emotional vibration that exists. Every other emotion has to submit to joy. So in the Champion's Way, we are going to cultivate high positive emotions. And we're going to learn how to sustain that emotional state so that you can consistently perform at your best. Again, champions can turn a disempowering emotion into an empowering emotion at will. And one of the ways you can begin to move in this direction is, again, to measure how long you stay in a negative state after a poor performance, after a poor shot. Let's just say, again, referring to golf, it takes you 5 holes to recover emotionally from a bad shot, to go from anger, let's say, back to a place of calm concentration. You can set a goal for yourself, an incremental goal, to say, within 2 weeks' time, I'm going to move from a level, say, 5 to a level 10 by learning to return to an empowering state within 1 hole. And then, of course, you want to move to 0 holes. You want to be able to release that emotion and return to that place of calm concentration. This, for me, is a lifelong process because I want to live in joy. And the beautiful part of the Champion's Way is that we determine what mental emotional state we are going to go through something on the front end. And part of that is saying bye-bye to things like fear, anger, just low-level emotions. Like, you know, when you're in the game, but you're not really in the game, right? You want to become aware of these emotions, and you want to be able to move to that high positive state. And you want to begin to think of, at least to associate in your mind, when was it an experience you had that was a beautiful emotional state? I have some pictures in another room of my house of Bermuda. And when I look at those pictures and I see the ocean and I see the colors, and it reminds me of the experience that I had in Bermuda, which was totally positive, totally a place of curiosity and adventure. And it was just beautiful. And we want to begin to cultivate that state in our mind. In a former video, I mentioned how I had 12 17-year-old boys from Mexico. And I think you could probably imagine with me what their most disempowering emotion was: anger. And so in order to get them to learn what a high positive emotional state was, or at least a state of calm concentration, I had them sit in a chair that looked out over their driving range and just meditate for 10 to 15 minutes, where they had to get still. And to be able to recognize an emotional state of stillness, of what it meant to bring down their emotion to a calm concentration place, was the way they began to form some emotional mastery. As I'm sharing this with you, I'm thinking of another player who came to me shooting 77, high-level amateur. Couldn't break that comfort zone. And as I began to talk to him, I began to ask him, it just came to me, have you ever had a traumatic experience in golf? And he said, yes. And he said, when I was young, like my first competitive experience when I was like 11 or 12, I went to tee off. And when I teed off, I whiffed the ball and the ball ended up on the putting green and everybody laughed at me. And it brought shame to him. And so I took him through a process to release that shame. Do you know the next 3 times he went out to play, he shot 65, 66, 64. Simply because he released a most disempowering emotion, got to a place of calm concentration, and really got to a place of playing in his heart where he knew he could be, shooting in the 60s. So, as we go through the Champion's Way, we are going to learn how to cultivate the emotional state we want to play in to perform our best. And I want to encourage you, enrollment is open in the upcoming 12-week mentorship that we will go through, learn and apply all of these zones in the Champion's Way. And if you're interested, please click on the link below and we'll schedule a time where you and I will have a conversation as to how I can best serve you, what your goals are, and if this mentorship is a fit for you. So click on the link below. I'll see you in the Champion's Way, and I look forward to the next video, which will talk about the spiritual zone of performance.